So getting into volume 7 of High School DxD, this is one of the volumes where people have the biggest problem when it comes to the anime itself. So season 3 of the anime is where it changes a lot of things, it cuts things out, and this is where a lot of fans get very agitated. And there's a lot of reasons why, and it's very much understandable when you actually read the volume itself and understand what has been cut and altered, because there's some interesting stuff that happens between certain characters, and so I will go over those throughout the volume itself. But the beginning of the story of volume 7 basically goes into the Empire song and slash dance, where Issei is now becoming a bit of a celebrity in the underworld itself because of the song and his famous love for Opie. And it's just adorable. I think it's just one of the cute things about Issei is that as he's going up in fame, he's staying humble. Like, he's doing it for the fans, he's being there to support them, and it just shows, as you know, his name goes up in the ranks because of his power, because of his enthusiasm for Opie. It just kind of, he doesn't let it get ahead of him. And then there's also some stuff after that about the hero faction, the balance breaker, and how they're trying to use any method necessary to allow themselves to go into balance breaker, even if it jeopardizes the health of the individuals. Like, they're just willing to put everything on the table, and it is quite scary to see what they're willing to go to basically defeat their enemies. They're very zealot-like, and they are not scared to challenge anyone that will get in their way, which is, one of those is Vali, because Vali is seen as kind of like the hero, but even the hero faction is kind of like, hey, you get in our way, we're going to knock you down a peg or two, which again makes sense because of how zealous like they are. At that point, you also go into Issei losing 99% of his lifespan because of him going into Berserk, and then it goes over how he is able to regain some of that lifespan, because it does hit him quite heavily, even though technically he would still live longer than a normal human. Even losing 99% of that, he still will live much longer than a normal human, but for everyone else, he will die much sooner. And so there's some information that is given to him about how he can get some of that back slowly over time, but also explain to him, hey, you can't go into this form doing it the way you've done, you can't go into Berserk, you will die if you do it again. And there's also some stuff with Konako where she's like, you know, willing to offer her assistance, but it also involves nightly activities in the bed, and that definitely stirs up some fun drama. One of the things that I always love about High School DxD is when Issei gets into these situations where the girls offer to help him riv their body, because that's kind of how it is. It's always like them exposing their body as magic and healing and all that, and then the other girls kind of take it and they're just like, yeah, we're gonna get jealous about this. It's just fun. I've always enjoyed that about High School DxD. It's not something to take too serious, but I just think it's really funny, particularly for Konako, because she is very sweet and adorable, and she's also going through her own stuff as well, and that also involves Akano as well, because in this volume Akano goes on a date with Issei. Now, this does actually happen in the anime as well, but it does play out a little bit different, and most of that's just to do with the fact that them going on a date, of course, the usual happens. The girls follow, they're kind of spying. Kiba's kind of in the background just waving, all embarrassed, like, yeah, no, the girls are following. And then Akano and Issei go on a little bit of a run and run away, and that's when they bump into the old guy, Odin, and Akano's father. Now, this is where I actually do get annoyed with the anime, because the anime does take some major stuff out between Akano and her father and some of the interactions between them, because the anime kind of makes it almost feel like the father's just worse than what he really, like, his father's not, her father is not a bad person. It's just an event that happened that was bad place, wrong place, wrong time kind of situation, where the father left for a moment, it was used to an advantage, they came in and they did some horrible things. So to explain it fully, Akano meets her father at this event again, with the date, with Odin there as well, and she does not take to it kindly, because she has a hatred towards her father because of the past events that happened, which led to the death of her mother. And there's a big backstory video that I did as well going over this, but the basics of it is she's angry with her father because he wasn't there to protect them because he was away, and they killed her because of the fact that she had a child with him because he was injured during a war, and so she's held that as a grudge. Now, the thing that gets taken out of the out of the anime that is in there is during the fight with Loki, because Loki, of course, is trying to cause Ragnarok, and Akano is about to get severely hurt. Her father steps in and takes the blow because, of course, he cares for her. He does love his daughter, but the anime takes that out, which is a very touching moment, and it shows that the father does care. It also has a fun interaction between the father and Issei, because the father's heard rumors about how Issei eats opie, so he's kind of like very protective of his daughter, being like, no, you can't, you know, desecrate her body, and he's very protective, and she gets angry, and then she has a moment where she gets naked in front of Issei, basically saying, hey, do me. Very much like what Rias did with season 1, where she's like, take me, take my body, make it impure, so, you know, the whole situation with her being pawned off as a marriage can then become more difficult. It's similar like that, but just basically to spite her father. But Issei, holding his composure, basically says, no, I'm not going to do that. And then rather than falling into those temptations, he consoles her, which I think is the most appropriate thing that someone can do like that. And he does a good job at it. That is where she is able to make the first major step of overcoming her issues with her father, and I think her father doing what he did during the Loki fight is a major pillar of showing that he does care. And then one of the last scenes in the light novel is Issei delivering some food that Akano made that he ends up eating, and he ends up bawling his eyes out and saying that it reminded him of his wife's cooking, which is of course Akano's mother. So those little sweet interactions are really important to me because it shows character building. It shows the development between two individual characters. So seeing that removed out of the anime is annoying in itself. But really that's probably like one of a million other things that have been altered and changed, because there's situations where during the whole fight between Loki and the team, because he wants to defeat or kill Odin to stop the whole alliance happening and cause Ragnarok, there's a lot of fighting that happens, and some of that is with Vali and Issei and they working together, and then also Vali taking a particular dog, a very valuable dog that Loki has, and then using it as, like, you know, the teeth that can kill a god. So that, yes, that is in the anime, but how some of it plays out is very different. One of the other things also, because of the fact that they have to do all this preparation and training to defeat Loki, Issei gets Mjolnir, the hammer, but in the anime he's able to lift it quite easily, but in the light novels he struggles, and the reason being he's not really able to wield it properly is because of him being impure. And so it's not him being impure in the sense of him being like evil, having horrible thoughts in the sense of what we would see it as, like him wanting to hurt people, doing stuff. It's because he's impure in the most basic sense of High School DxD. He thinks about opie and he's all dirty minded. So that's why Mjolnir doesn't work, because it's again, for those that understand the Norse mythology lore, it's all about pure of heart. Issei is not pure of heart. He's a deviant, and so it really shows that he's struggling to really actually use the weapon efficiently and properly. But that is also cut as well. So there's a lot of little things with the fights. I would prefer it in there, but it isn't in there, but I get why. And then of course there's all this other stuff about Juggernaut Drive, learning how to use it, the duration of how long he can use it for. So he can use it for like 2 hours per day. So there's a bit more long duration, and it's kind of helpful when he's doing like costumes and like he's going out and doing events for his whole TV show like thing, where he can jump in that form for a lot longer. But as far as battles go, I don't think a battle would ever go beyond 2 hours. It's good for like training and all that. So yeah, that makes sense. There's also elves and dwarves that are also talked about this as well. Vali learning the Norse magic, which he's kind of like reading a book, and Issei's having a bit of a talk with him, and then Vali's like, reading the book. Issei doesn't think, well, kind of a little bit, not understanding what's going on, and then realizes, oh, he's learning the magic when he starts using it. And that's also just something that he uses against Loki as well. So there's a lot of really cool interactions between different characters that have been slimmed out that personally I would like to see, and there's more stuff even that I haven't gone over. And then of course you've got the Valkyrie chick that's also introduced in this volume as well, that she came along with Odin. She's then abandoned, and she's kind of seen as that hot older sort of teacher kind of thing, and she ends up getting a job at the school. She ends up joining, of course, the team itself, and it's just another hot babe that Issei can kind of go over. But she's just kind of fun. I like her as a character. I always like Norse mythology, so having a character like that in the story permanently is just something that I really, really, really love. And it also goes into some other stuff with Sensei. Sensei is always a character that I love. His interactions with Issei and Vali have always been fun, particularly with Issei, because there's always these fun interactions of like trying to expand on Issei's mind when it comes on to like Opie. The possibilities are always endless with him when he comes up with little gimmicky little toys and ways to use his powers better. Those are never ending. I absolutely love it. So I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Have you read Volume 7? What did you think of Volume 7? Because again, there is a lot of interesting little nuggets in this volume that you can kind of break apart, dissect, and be like, hey, this happened, that happened, and these things should have been in Volume 7. But again, because of how much was changed, that's why Season 4 retconned as much as it did. It had to go back to basics and retcon it and fix all those issues up, because there's just so much that's been altered that it just changes the fundamentals of how the story works. So it makes sense. I understand why some fans get annoyed at it, but it had to happen. So again, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Of course, I will be continuing to talk about High School DxD going into the future. And of course, if you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.